Welcome to Storycomic Presents, where we interview amazing storytellers and artists. This is episode 430. I'm your host, Barney Smith of Storycomic.com. And we're excited to have with us the internationally acclaimed and award-winning writer, Johnell DeWitt, and famed illustrator, Maggie Shang. How's it going?
It's going good. I just got an upgrade.
So, yeah, we were talking before. So, Johnell, you're in Virginia. Maggie, you're in Maryland. I am in Vermont. So we were all in the same time zone, which is very exciting. And which means that we didn't have to adjust anything. We didn't have to when I have some people from England, they'll be on, it's 11:30 at night for them and all that kind of fun stuff. But no, we're smack dab right here, 6:15, ready to go. Stalled for a good 15 minutes, but hey, we're in it. We're in it now. So the two of you are part of the Kids Comic Unite Anthology. Let's go. And the two of you actually teamed up to tell one of the stories, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. And so, Johnell, you're the writer of it, and then Maggie, you were the illustrator of the story, correct? All right. So talk to us a little bit. What's the story about?
Maggie?
I guess it was originally one of Janelle's ideas. I believe it was an old children's book manuscript you had worked on.
It's so interesting to see how it's evolved, because the original idea is totally different than where we took it. Because Maggie and I kind of teamed up in a really serendipitous way. I had a story idea that I was throwing around, finding an illustrator for that had space whales in it. And I had talked to Jade about my story, and Maggie, another one of the anthology contributors, and Maggie and Jade are friends. And so Jade had mentioned it to Maggie, and she reached out to me and she said, "Hey, are you still looking for an illustrator for your Starwell story, Well?" And I'm like, well, I've already found someone. And then I thought for a minute, but do you want to collaborate on something else? And so we had a few emails back and forth where we were thoroughly confused each other. And she was thinking that I still had this Starwell story. And I was like, oh no, it's totally it. And it was about space whales. And that's not even the title of the story that I'm collaborating with Cesar, who's doing the space whale story. So I tossed some ideas at her of ideas that I had, old picture book ideas that I thought we could do something with. And there was this one idea that I'm developing into a graphic novel as well. But there was this little nugget of the idea that appealed to Maggie. And so I said, all right, let's work with this, and let's just make it so different from my story that it's not really a resemblance. And so it was a really fun process to just take that little nugget of an idea and then see how kind of opposite I could go with it. And then also looking at Maggie's art, which is just whimsical and beautiful and fantastical. I wanted to really lean into that so that she could just really shine and just, have that be so much a part of her story as well. So her art really inspired how I started to sort of process the story as well, which was really fun for me.
I think definitely that initial miscommunication and just kind of the serendipity of wanting to work with each other and making it work. But I remember Johnell specifically pitched it to me it's the Polar Express meets Hayao Miyazaki. And that just sounded so amazing. And I love dealing with whimsical worlds and stories. So from there, we just really got into the kind of world we were imagining and what we wanted to include. And graphic noveling, sometimes it can be very solo. You literally, at least for me, it's I think of the idea, I find my spot, and I just work. And it was the first time I felt I had a collaborator where we just got to talk about the idea. And it was it was so fun. And just also the amount of ideas we were thinking of, it was just one after the other. We just had so many that it was honestly really hard to just pick a few to go forward with and to incorporate into the story. But yeah, just having a partner has been so fun and has made it all a lot more enjoyable.
on how much freedom, Johnell, do you give Maggie to illustrate your story, and how much do you kind of have some say, oh, this is how I kind of imagined it to look like, and how does that back and forth go with the two of you?
Oh, that's a great question. So was a really different kind of setup. I think Maggie will say too, because I didn't walk in with any script in mind. I just approached her with, what idea are you interested in? And then I'll try to come up with a script. And so, she picked the idea that she liked the most. And then I'm like, okay. And then I look at her art and I'm trying to see kind of where it will take me. And then I just started to develop a story that I thought would fit in 8 pages. And and then, we would sort of bounce that off of each other with her art and then the story to see how they would fit together and see if the pacing for both of them would work. And we ended up making a lot of changes along the way just to get that down to that vexing 8 pages. So in that respect, it was very different. It was very much a collaboration. Like, we were working together to develop the story. With my other story, I had a script that I gave to Cesar, even though we worked out the details for the script before. And then once he had the script, then he kind of went with it. But Maggie and I were very much back and forth, working, on the script and then the art, and then putting it together, seeing how it fit, and then making changes to both as we needed to. A little unusual.
For both of you, what is your favorite part of the creative process when working in a children's comic?
I definitely like the initial idea stage because everything just feels so new and exciting and you're really amped about this thing you're creating and this story. Um, but I will say from a visual standpoint, I adore coloring. I love coloring so much and it's like very much like an extension of like a literary tool I use. And I just love using it to like push story forward and all that.
It's beautiful. For me, I enjoy the idea stage also, just coming up, just pie in the sky, all of the possibilities. And then scripting for me, since I'm not an illustrator, I know that I'm enjoying the story, enjoying the process when, as I'm writing it, I can visualize it in my own mind. Like I can see the pictures as I'm writing it down, and that's really exciting for me. That's as close as I get to illustrating, is being able to visualize the pictures in my head as I'm writing these stories, and that's really fun for me.
So, can you guys kind of share a memorable moment from working on the Let's Go anthology?
You go first, Maggie.
I feel like it's really hard to just pick one, but I think like towards the end where like the deadlines were coming into play and we really had to like turn a lot of this action into like final stuff. I think just like like that like countdown part was definitely memorable. And I remember Johnell was so like kind about just letting me like do whatever I needed with the art to like get it to that done point. And yeah, I'm just so appreciative of that. And just those final moments, definitely, maybe all the stress is like what makes it so memorable. But yes, definitely a part I won't forget.
Yeah. So I'm also on the marketing committee with Patrick. And so I've been involved in that, in some of the setup to get everything going. And so I would say that's one of a memorable point, is just seeing how much it takes to bring everything together from all of these different creators, and how you can pull something off that seems completely insurmountable. I mean, when we started over a year ago with this idea and this project, it seemed so big. But then everybody just working together and bringing their expertise together, we basically turned our little group into a publishing house with everybody providing their talents and skills so that we can self-publish this creation that's been through a huge vetting process, and all of the effort and oversight that, not, I would say, exactly like traditional publishing, but a lot of care going into it that would be a little more similar to just to traditional publishing than maybe you would find in, you know, maybe a typical self-published book where you only have one or two people that are doing it. But this group, this anthology, all of us together has synergistically, it's created, I think, a much better and stronger product for all of us. It's really
Okay.
put us.
So how do you think this anthology stands out from other children's comic collections?
At least for us, like the actual community that's behind it and like the people who we've been able to work with to get it to where it needs to be, certainly I think puts it in like a separate category. Um, but honestly, this is like the first anthology that I've been able to be a part of. So I definitely like think a lot of this has just been one giant learning curve for me as well.
Yeah. So the theme of our anthology is a journey. It's based on a journey. It's kind of on the quote by Tim Cahill, and I hope I get it right. A journey is measured in friends, not miles, something like that. And so each of us created a story about some childlike protagonist going on a journey and meeting a friend or some type of fantastical creature. And there are 28 different stories, and every story is unique, even though there are some that are overlapping, you know, with ideas or themes. And the art styles are all unique and all beautiful and incredible. Um, but we have managed with, and from all over the world too, right? We've got people, international creators, and we have debut creators, and we have seasoned creators who are all part of this. But bringing all of that together in one book, to me, is a really beautiful, unique little nugget of all these different, disparate ideas based on one theme, and how everybody interpreted that, I think, is just fascinating. And the art styles are all over the map, and the stories are fun and quirky and all over the map. And it's so fun to see how everybody interpreted that theme and what they did with it. And I love it.
Well, hey there. If you're enjoying our podcast, don't forget to subscribe on YouTube or leave us a 5-star review on your favorite podcast platform. Your support means the world to us and helps us keep this show going. We love hearing from you, so any feedback is welcome. And thank you for being a part of our podcast family and for all your support. It truly means a lot to us. Did you guys also incorporate some educational elements into the story?
No.
Really?
Ours is purely whimsical and fantastical. It's just this little mystery. It's just it's a little
Very
Miyazaki.
military, fairy tale-esque. Sorry.
Yeah. But there are other stories in the anthology that do have educational elements. That's what makes it so fun, is that you can go from our little, you know, whimsical, mystical journey, and then there's one that's, I think, like the Pliocene era. It's got some things from the Pliocene era in it, and some others that have little educational bits in there. And so it really is just an absolute feast for the eyes and for the brain to go through and see those things. I think kids will enjoy it because there's something in it for everyone.
Because you kind of mentioned earlier too, Maggie, that you love coloring. So how does this work in particular in this anthology kind of reflect your other aspects of your personal artistic style?
I do think I was very lucky that Johnell kind of just let me like run with it and gave me a lot of freedom with it. But um, I definitely think like when even like from the get-go, like I'm thinking of color like all the way like from the story and what colors are going to communicate what I want. But I actually, because this had to be CYMK, because we are printing it, so I had to use some programs that I've never used before, and it definitely made me be even more like critical. I think that's the word I want, critical of like the colors that I chose, because I'm already like using and doing stuff that is outside my comfort zone. So I wanted to be very intentional with like the colors that we had. And I think because it was also really, like Johnell said, like it's a bit like it's very like mysterious and whimsical. It's a little spooky. So it just felt like a story that really needed that like narrative drive as well. And so I definitely think color helped bring that story there and like bring that emotion and like bring the tension that we wanted at the right moments. But honestly, like if I could even just be a colorist on a story, like that would be a dream come true. Because it's very much how I think of story visually. Is it starts with color.
Hmm. And so Johnell, then kind of a similar question. How does your storytelling in this the anthology for, both of them draw on your previous writing experiences?
Well, I think I have kind of an eclectic taste in stories. I love fantastical stories. I love sci-fi. I love historical fiction. So I've been working on a historical fiction novel for a while that takes a little bit of research. And I've got this idea that Maggie and I spun Runaway Train out of. It's one that I'm in love with too, and that's very just fantastical and um, I kind of build that as the as like an Amulet meets Scorpio races kind of a story where it's got like the setting of the Scorpio races, but like kind of the epic evolvement of Amulet. And I think it's probably very bold of me to use Amulet as a comp in that, but I love it. Um, so yeah, I love all different types of stories, and I love to write in all of them. I think it's brain food for me to be able to just kind of not limit myself to any one genre.
What role do you think digital platforms play in the future of kids comics?
I definitely think they aren't going anywhere. I mean, I don't think it's necessarily a full substitution for in-person events because I mean, getting to meet Janelle in person like definitely makes me feel like I just get to know her a little bit better in a way that you don't necessarily get with online stuff. But it's also just allowed me to meet people who have the same goals as me. They're in the same spot. And so just having that camaraderie, even if it isn't in person, is still so worth it. And like you also just the things you learn too, because you have those connections. But I think we're also very lucky that there's a lot of KCU people just by happenstance that are in our area. So there are a lot of like chances to have that in person like meetup where you actually get to meet the people whose profile pictures you see every day.
Well, I would love to meet up with Cesar at some point because he's in France. Um, but yeah, I mean, it's allowed us to be able to bring creators from all over the world together to work on that, which has been exciting. And I'm going to put in a plug, if you don't mind, for Kidlit GN for our pitch event, because that's all digital and it wouldn't be possible without that. So we have a pitch event every October. It opens on the first Wednesday for viewing, the first Wednesday of October. Prior to that, people can load up their pitches, and we're at kidlitgn.com. And without this sort of digital platform, it wouldn't have been possible to be able to pull something off like this. And there have been people who have found their agents and editors through the event. So it's really opened up the opportunity for people to find each other. And that you couldn't really do in another way, at least globally. I mean, you can like, in conferences and local things like that, but globally, it's been amazing for a lot of people who don't necessarily have those opportunities to go to these in-person events or to be in a place where they can meet up with people in the industry. So I'm a fan.
And so I'm also curious too. Is that as it working in kids comics, uh, it has to be very visual and very imaginative. So there's equal footing for the writing aspect to it and also the illustration aspect to it. How much, Johnell, did you have to sacrifice words to make sure there's enough space for the pictures? And was there any redundancy where there was a description that was actually in it that the two of you said, well, I don't have to say this because you can draw this. So how did that go?
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah. So I tried to be cognizant of the small space. Like I try to make the dialogue as brief as I can without losing anything, or I try to make it so that it's like extendable through different panels so that it can be broken up and still maintain a flow. Um, Initially, we had sort of this narration caption going on. And then one of the feedback sessions we got from one of the design team, no, the publishing team, one of the editors from the PubCom committee, they said, I'm not sure you need those captions. So I went back and I looked through it and I'm like, okay, let's take these out and let's see. And so we took those out, and that freed Maggie up to be able to have more space on the panel, to be able to do a little bit more with the art, and freed up the pacing a little bit for the art to take over. And I would say that's one of the things, and Maggie can talk about this, that we learned is that the pacing of the art and the story have to both be there. Like, and we were finding that you had to sacrifice one or the other. So, but I'll let Maggie fill that in.
Definitely agreeing with you on that, that like I feel like something would like just sound so perfect written, and then when you try to draw it, it like all of a sudden didn't work. And so like realizing sometimes like the pacing wasn't directly translatable, like sometimes it would sound great or look great and then it wouldn't work vice versa. So I think that was definitely, and this is like the first time like we've had a partnership like this. So like just being willing to just work with each other on like, hey, this isn't working, let's revisit this, like, hey, this isn't working on my side. And like I said, Johnell was just so nice about me going like, I can't fit this, like I'm nixing it. And she was just like okay. And because I know sometimes it's like you get so protective over like your creations that sometimes being that like decisive is really difficult. And I think we were both pretty like open to like, we need to make this work. So what has to happen to make this work?
How do you describe to somebody who is very familiar with children's books, because children's books have been around for almost a century, if you think about it? Like they're saying, what is the difference between a kid's comic and a children's book?
Ooh, I can definitely speak from like the visual side because I started off doing children's book illustration like exclusively before like realizing my stories that I wanted to make were more like suited for graphic novels, and that was the feedback I was getting. So I took all my children's book knowledge and just kind of tried to slap it onto graphic novel and learned really quickly that that's not going to work. Like I feel like children's book there's like it's all about texture and like you get an entire like giant spread to do like one scene, and like the pacing and the paneling and like the angles that add to the story, like you just have so much more to think of when it comes to graphic novel. And it's like you're literally drawing a movie versus like, and that can be like 300 pages versus like a 32 book. And like it is, you think it's going to be like I can draw, like I have all this experience, like surely it's going to just be like riding a different bike or something. But it was such like a shift in perspective and like how you view story visually that I definitely think like just the more I do it, the more it's like gets more comfortable, but it definitely was a transition.
So I, very similar to Maggie, I love picture books. They are my first kidlit love. I absolutely adore them. And so I started off trying to write picture books, and my stories were too big and too old for picture books. And so that it was a natural fit for me to try to transition to writing graphic novels. Uh, the difference, I think, like Maggie was saying, in picture books, the art could be very immersive. You can just sit there and you can stare at a panel and you can pick things out and really kind of lose yourself in the art as well. But in a graphic novel, the art has to be moving the story forward. Um, and the words also have to be part of that as well. Like in a children's picture book, the script can tell a lot more of the story that's going on than necessarily in a graphic novel, because you have to be so spare with those words. You don't have like that big paragraph at the bottom. So you have to be really mindful of the words that you're using, which is true in a picture book, but just in a different way. And then how to design the words and the script so that it will fit in those small spaces and also carry forward the idea across the panels and sometimes even across a page and still make sense.
As you all are well aware of, the internet is forever. So if somebody is watching this interview in 5 years from now and they're like, this sounds like an amazing anthology, and that's a 5-year-old video, how am I ever going to get my hands on Let's Go, the first kids comic anthology? Johnell, you're in the marketing department for this anthology. Where's someone going to get this book in 5 years?
So you need to go to our landing page, because that will be updated. And I've got that link if you want it. So the landing page has information that will add our Kickstarter campaign that's coming up April 2nd on Kickstarter. I think we'll be doing a little bit of a pre-launch lead up to that, but that will also be hitting our landing page. Also on the landing page, you can sign up for the newsletter, and the newsletter will keep people updated. I do believe we are trying to create a print-on-demand option, so that will be available for people in the future as well. So yeah, the landing page is the key here. That's where you can sign up for the newsletter. That's where you can find the updates and find all the exciting stuff when our Kickstarter hits in, what is it? In less than a month now.
That's right. So they could go to kidscomic.unite.com and they'll be able to follow the links to there if someone's watching this 5 years from now. But Maggie, if people want to learn more about you, where's the best place they could go to?
I have my website, which is maggieshang.com. This is considered like my professional portfolio where you can see some of my work. And I am also at Mag Shang on pretty much any social media platform. That's my handle.
Perfect. And Johnell, you're at JohnellDeWitt.com?
Right. Yeah. Okay. I'm just about the same on Blue Sky and the other socials as well.
Okay. Perfect. Excellent. And so my next question. All right, let me pause that because it'll be like I was right on top of it the whole time. Wow, look at Barney go with all those great questions. He's not even taking a breath. That's amazing. I'm a middle child, so I have to compliment myself. No one else will. So if I was talking, so